Welcome to Business Connection. I'm Liz Spencer. I have Colleen Worley in studio with me today, and she's a speech language pathologist and a CEO of Naperville Pediatric Therapy. Wow, you're doing it all.
Thanks so much for having me, Liz. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Let's start there first.
So I am born and raised in Naperville. I grew up specifically in Knoch-Knolls. I went to St. Raphael School from preschool all the way through 8th grade. Then I went to Bennett. And from there, I went to U of I for undergrad, and then to Northern Illinois University for my master's degree in speech pathology. And I worked in a private practice in Chicago for about 4 years until this year when I opened Naperville Pediatric Therapy right here in Naperville.
What drew you to this particular specialty?
Well, to this specialty just means so much to me for a number of reasons. One, I just always knew that I really wanted to truly feel like I was making a difference and making an impact. Not only on just a single person, but kind of a whole family. And you really get to see that in this profession. You get to see a child grow and make strides towards their speech and language goals, and then you get to see how it impacts their confidence level, their interactions with their family, and their interactions at school.
When someone first contacts you and you get involved, what's the first steps?
Sure. So a lot of times parents will reach out to me via email from my website. And what I'll do is first ask if the child is already in speech. Sometimes they are. They're in speech at school or outside. And from there we know, okay, we're going to need therapy to continue. Other times, the initial concern is pretty recent, in which case I always offer the parents, which I think everyone should take advantage of, is the free screening program that we have at Naperville Pediatric Therapy. What it is I have very specific, very short, 10, 15, 20-minute screening tools that will tell us whether or not we need to do a further speech and language evaluation, or if we're on track right now, let's wait and see for a little while. If a further evaluation is warranted, I will go ahead and schedule an evaluation with the family. It's very individualized. It's very tailored to the child's exact needs. Once that is complete, I will outline goals and send everything to the parents so that way they know exactly what we're going to be working on in therapy. And then we will have weekly sessions, sometimes twice weekly, depending on the severity of the case. And in 4 to 6 months, we will then reassess if we need to, or we'll discharge from speech because we've met all our goals wonderfully.
Well, and I think we take it for granted what it means to have clear speech. And what does that do for a child's self-esteem?
So you really get to see some wonderful things, and you notice it in the little moments in therapy. It might be the first time that a child makes a sound in an accurate manner, and you just see the little light in their eyes, and, oh, I can do this, I've got this. You see that confidence start to build up. Maybe it's when a child is first starting to put 2 and 3 words together in a sentence instead of just using one word to communicate. And it really is wonderful to see across contexts how impactful speech and language are in every child's life, whether it's at home, at school, just playing with their friends. You can see the growth in every aspect of their life.
And you don't only deal with speech. There's the swallowing, and I think most people think of speech pathologists as well just speech, but it really has to do with swallowing and tongue placement.
Absolutely.
Talk to me a little bit about what this...
Sure. So I do a lot of oral motor and, as you said, swallowing, feeding disorder therapy as well. A lot of times, even with some of those speech sounds that we were talking about, you still have to relearn tongue placement. It's not just making the sound the right way and hoping that it's the right way. There's a lot that goes behind it. And then with feeding, there's a multitude of different things that we as speech pathologists are trained to do, including working on chewing and swallowing, the proper coordination, increasing muscle tone, and things like that. Some kids who have sensory and behavioral disorders surrounding food, too, is also in our scope of practice. So I work with a lot of kids in that area as well.
So if they come in with the need for tongue placement, is their speech impacted too, or they can be 2 separate things as well?
They can be 2 separate things. Usually with tongue placement specifically, a lot of times we do tongue thrust therapy. A lot of kids have the tongue resting position isn't in the accurate position, and so I will definitely start off fixing the tongue placement first, and then we go back and do the sounds, which a lot of times you don't know that that's the issue, the underlying issue. So it's another good way where the kids feel like, oh, I this is something I can fix. Great. I thought I was always going to have to talk like this because my tongue wouldn't stay in the right place or things like that. So it's great that we can kind of work it all together and build that confidence.
And how long is a child typically in therapy?
So it is totally dependent on everything, depending on if there's another diagnosis involved, if they've been in therapy before, just really situational. But the way I do it is I write goals after the evaluation. I see what the diagnosis is, and then I will write goals of, if a child is working on the S sound, I would write a goal for about 4 to 6 months. And if we're working once a week, we're working on getting our S sound first at the word level. Then we're going to work on it at a sentence level. And then we'll work on it in conversation. And then hopefully by that 4 or 6 months, we're good to go. If not, that's no problem. We just reassess and we add some extra goals and we go from there. So I tailor it totally depending on the child and what they're working on. But it always just kind of depends on, what they're working on.
Right. Well, I wouldn't have thought of taking that S sound and thinking, well, I just have to learn how to, I wouldn't, word, sentence, in the conversation, I wouldn't think that I thought I would just learn how to make an S.
Right. So isn't it interesting to see, like you said, we take it for granted because we've been speaking clearly for a long time, but these kids who are working so hard on one sound, getting it at that word level is just the first step.
Right.
And then moving on to build onto that where they can not even think about it anymore like you and I do.
And is your typical pediatric client, what's the age range for you?
So with feeding kids, sometimes it can be as early as 4 or 6 months, that first year, just working on basic oral motor skills. And then with language, articulation, speech, all of that, it can go up to 18. Okay. So all the pediatric years are definitely touched on.
And you work you can work separately or you can work in conjunction with the school plan.
Yeah, so what I do is I always make sure that we have connections with the families, the teachers, if they have other speech therapists, occupational therapists at school or outside of school. And I think that's something that really I pride myself on, and that Naperville Pediatric Therapy prides itself on, is that we are so committed to making sure every family is really involved. We're giving speech homework every week, not anything overwhelming, but and then making sure teachers and all the outside professionals are involved, so that way the child does see how it does impact everything, and they feel that, oh, I can work on this because I can do it in every context that I'm in. And it's just a wonderful way to really bring the whole, every context together,
right,
and see that they can really grow in each part of their life just because of their work on their speech and language skills.
Well, it's so powerful. It's so impactful. It makes a difference. It's a key to success. So thank you so much for stopping by and sharing what you do.
Thank you so much, Liz. I really appreciate it.
Take care, and we're going to be right back with more Business Connection.